Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury beauty. Today we're just going to do a very brief review on the new Chantecaille Next Generation Eye Base. So this is a new primer that just came out. It was released around the same time as the holiday collection. It's actually kind of being promoted with the holiday collection, but I believe this is a permanent addition to the Chantecaille makeup line. And it's made in Italy. It's 0.05 ounces or 1.3 grams. And it has an 18-month shelf life upon opening. And you can see it looks kind of like an eye crayon, a retractable eye crayon. There are two shades in this. I purchased light, and then the other shade, I forget what they call it, I think medium. This is what it looks like going on. This is the light shade. And it's a cross between two different types of textures for primers. So primers and eye bases, in my experience, have essentially two different camps. You've got the smooth silicone-based primers, which really provide a very smooth, silky surface that increases blendability. Then you also have the primers or bases that have a little bit of tackiness to them, a little bit more of that creamy putty texture and so forth, and it really allows things to adhere really well. It's fantastic for tapping on products, particularly metallics and glitters. This is kind of in between. So I would say it leans a little bit more towards the silky silicone texture, but there is a little bit of tackiness to this. So I have been testing this for a few days now. I've tested it side-by-side tests on one eye with the primer, one eye with no primer, or with different primers. And I recorded parts of it so you can kind of see. But let me go over my findings. So the first time I tested this, I tested it, and you can actually see the initial application in my Dior video, is in one of the demos. So I applied this to my right eye, left eye. I put on no primer. After about 12 hours, the eyeshadow, I was using the Dior Holiday Collection, I started to see very, very minimal signs of creasing. So I had a faint crease without primer. With the Chantecaille side, I did not really experience any creasing. So it held up better, performed well. So then I wanted to test it side by side with different primers. So I tested it, and this one I filmed with the Viseart primer. So you can see an update. The Viseart primer is my go-to primer. It has more of that silicone type texture to it. It's very smooth, but it seems to really work well for me to increase longevity and, just kind of, it ticks all of my boxes. So for this one, after about, I forget what the time was. I have it listed in the demo, and I will share that with you. It was like somewhere between 12, 14 hours, something like that. I think 12 hours maybe. So anyway, with the Viseart, absolutely no signs of creasing. With the Chantecaille, looking straight off in the mirror, I couldn't see any signs of creasing. I had to move to a magnifying mirror to really see, and I could see that it was just starting to kind of accumulate product in little spots. So it would begin creasing. So I do feel that the Viseart eye primer will hold up better for longevity. However, this performed really well. Now, did it help with any metallics or anything that I tested with, like increasing like pop of color or increasing the adherence without fallout? Not really, but it didn't make anything worse. It's a nice base. It provides just a tiny bit of color to kind of even out your lids, but it's not really all that pigmented. So, if you do have like a lot of veining on your lids and so forth, something like this might help even it out. It's not going to completely disguise it. It's not that opaque, but it does help even that out. It provides a nice smooth base for eyeshadow application, and it does increase longevity. So I think overall it's a nice eye base, but I don't think it's necessarily the best eye base. It does retail for $38 US, and I think the formula is really nice to use. You can see on my hand here, I blended out this part here. Touching it, even after sitting here, I still have a little bit of tackiness. So here where I didn't blend it out, it feels a little bit tackier, but even where I did blend it out, I can feel that texture. There is a little bit of, you know, tackiness right where I blended it out as well. So those are my thoughts on that. Let's cut to the demos, and then, you know, I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so we are going to use the Chantecaille eye stick again on the right eye only. And I'm just going to blend this in just a little bit. This is the Westman Atelier eyeshadow 1 brush. So just gonna kind of buff that in. Okay, and we're going to have the Viseart eye primer on this side, which is my go-to primer. So the Viseart eye primer is going to be clear. It's more of a smooth silicone base. And go. So there are both eyes with the primers. You can see that the Chantecaille does kind of blend away a little bit of the, you know, like it blurs a little bit of the lines, covers it a little bit. We're going to go into the new Dior palettes. We're going to go into the second shade using the same brush here. And I'm just going to put this all over the lid. I actually really just kind of like this shade on its own too. I didn't think I would, but I love it. And then really, this is just gonna be a base. You know, I'm actually, you're not gonna see this color at all, but I do like it on its own. But we're gonna go into the silver using the same brush. I'm gonna put this in the corners and basically the first half, and then we're going to spread into the gold. So I'm going to layer the silver and the gold in the middle. Okay, going into the other palette, same brush. And I'm going to start off in the middle, just kind of tapping that on there. And then going over. All right, so there's that. You know, I think I want to get a little bit something more noticeable on the outer corner. So I'm going to go into this brown shade here in the bottom. Just going to get a little bit on here. I'm going to go over this with the gold because I just want like a tiny bit of depth here. All right, so just going to take some of the gold and just patting that on top here. So there's my silver and gold look. And I think for the lower lash line, I'm going to go into the first shade in this gold palette. And I'm just going to use the angle here of this brush. And I'm just going to get a little bit more silver right on the tip here, just for the inner corner here. All right, so there's that. And then for eyeliner, let's see. Okay, for eyeliner, I'm going to go in with this black one from last year's holiday. This is number 40, Sparkling Black. And this is from Dior. This one I didn't have issues with. I know some people did have issues with this one, and I've had issues with other Dior liners, so I'm not buying them anymore, but this is the last one I have left. All right, so I'm just going to take the side of the brush again and just softly go over that to soften the black a little bit. It's not really smudging it. I'm just kind of like getting a little color on there so it doesn't look quite as stark. And there's that. I'm going to add some mascara, finish my makeup. I'll see you in a second. All right, and this is my final look today. It's kind of a lighter look. So again, we've got the Chantecaille eye primer on this side, the Viseart on this side. I don't see any difference in the level of brightness or intensity of the shadows on either eye or in the blendability on either eye. They performed exactly the same on both eyes so far. So we'll see if longevity is the same for both. Now on my skin, I have the new Sisley Phyto Teint Nude Foundation in 000N Snow. And I have the Cle de Peau Cream Blush in Joyful Pink from the holiday collection on, and the Westman Atelier Peau de Rose highlighter. And on the lips, I have the Dior This is the liquid lipstick from the fall collection in number 483. It's the Ultra Care liquid formula, which I believe is being discontinued for the new liquids that came out, but this is a new shade that came out for the Birds of Feather collection. And then I also have a very light dusting of my Givenchy. I'm so excited about this powder. It's gorgeous. This is the Prisme Libre limited edition holiday powder that's not available here in the US. We'll talk about this later. It's number 11, Sparkling Lilac. I ordered mine from Fude Japan, but I believe it's also going to be available in the UK. And yeah, I think that's it. Surratt Noir Lash Tint on the eyes and the Jones Road Brow Pencil and Ash. Thanks so much. Okay, it has been 14 hours since I applied the shadows and the primers, and I just wanted to show you everything up close. So I know it is hard to tell. This is the Chantecaille eye primer here on my right eye. And on my left, I have the Viseart eye primer. At first glance, they look pretty much the same, right? So I went in really close with a magnifying mirror. And you can see, although I have no actual creasing or anything yet, I do have like a tiny bit of product that has, it looks like it's starting to like clump. Like maybe in a couple more hours I might have creasing on this. Whereas the Viseart, I mean, it's just totally smooth. So very, very slight difference. Oh, I'm not even sure if you could see that. Okay, so here, this is the Chantecaille. Can you see like kind of right here in the corner? You can see that the product looks a little bit thicker in certain spots now. But again, it hasn't gotten to the point where anything's creased and gone, you know, to the skin level. And then the Viseart, totally smooth. Hopefully you can see this. I obviously cannot see what I'm doing, so I'm hoping I'm in the frame. All right, so I am applying the Chantecaille eye base, and we're going to use this with some Chantecaille shadows today. All right, so just applying that, and then I'm going to use my finger just to kind of smooth it out, make sure it's all over. There we go. Nice base. And let's add a luminescent eye shade. Okay, so I'm going to start off with Cheetah. This is the Suku L brush. This is one of the squirrel hair ones. I'm going to put this in the crease and the inner corner and buff this up to the brow. Next, I'm going to take Giraffe, and I'm just going to get a little bit of this on here. I'm going to put this on the outer corner. Wipe off the brush, and then I'm just kind of blending that into the crease a little bit as well. And then we're going to move into my favorite shade, Elephant. And just going to use the same brush, just dusting this all over the lid. And I'm going softly over the Giraffe there as well. All right, so I just wiped this brush off, and I'm just kind of buffing this crease area a little bit more. I'm taking the Chikuhodo KZ8, and I'm going to put this in Giraffe. I'm just twirling it a little bit. This is going to be the lower lash line here. Wiping off the brush, and I'm going to go into Cheetah, which, you know, is this gorgeous, more like ivory champagne. I'm going to just go from the inner corner and kind of start blending over the Giraffe. All right, and for eyeliner, I'm just using the Chanel eyeliner in Khaki Metal. So that was number 56. I'm gonna go ahead and add the Surratt Noir Lash Tint and finish. And just a few quick comparisons of primers that I have on hand and use. This is the NARS Eye Base, and this is the original shade. It does now come in tinted shades. This one is a bit more of a moisturizing primer. You know, it feels more like a lotion. It has a very smooth texture to it. And then we also have the Hourglass Veil Eye Primer. This one is a little bit tackier. And this one here is, I'm gonna put this right next to it because the color is pretty similar. The Chantecaille, again, does also come in a deeper shade, but you can see that the light shade is pretty similar in the Hourglass Veil. Now, the texture of the Hourglass is a little bit smoother than the Chantecaille, but I would say they're fairly similar once the Hourglass dries down. I would also say performance of the Hourglass and the Chantecaille seem pretty much the same. And again, this is my go-to primer. This is the Viseart, and this has, it's more of a clear gel. Do you see it there? Looks kind of, you know, like Neosporin, and this is going to give you a smooth coverage. And then I also have the Anastasia of Beverly Hills. Yeah, I only have a little bit left. This is just a little sample. I haven't been using this that much, so I haven't been repurchasing. See if I can even get out there. It's still got some. Okay, so this one feels like a thicker cream. Like it's a thin consistency, but when you smooth it out, it doesn't smooth out as much. It's not as watery. It really feels more like a thicker cream. And if you haven't tried this one, I do like this one particularly for metallics and glitters. It dries down smoothly, but there is a little bit of tack to this. So I find it's best to pat shadows onto this particular primer versus blending them, for me at least. So out of all of these, I would say the amount of tackiness that you feel once it dries down, the Chantecaille has a little bit more tackiness after the product dries, but the Hourglass and the Anastasia Beverly Hills, while they're still a little on the damper side, they feel pretty equivalent. Now, as for adherence of metallics and so forth, I do feel like the Anastasia Beverly Hills does a little bit better than the Chantecaille with that. So I hope these demos were helpful. It is really hard to see, you know, any creasing really. It performs well. I mean, it's a nice eye base. I think it's a really nice eye primer. It really does, you know, make for a nice smooth surface to apply your shadow, and it does help with longevity compared to using no primer. Compared to other primers that I've tested, you know, I would say it's average. Some perform better, like the Viseart, and some performed about the same. So I think if you have a favorite primer already, this is not something you need to rush out and get. I think this eye base is really going to be ideal for people who do want a little tiny bit of color coverage for, you know, disguising any coloration on the lids, but you don't need a lot of it. So I think that's going to be kind of ideal. And I think, you know, if you're looking for increasing longevity, but you don't need to worry about that too much, this would be a good product. So overall, I think it's a nice, solid base product. You know, nothing incredibly spectacular or brand new, but it works well, it performs well. I think it's a good option. So overall, I'm happy to add this to my collection. You know, I'm probably not going to repurchase this because I think the Viseart is still my favorite, but I will enjoy using this. So I hope this was helpful, and if you enjoyed it or found it useful, please give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing and sharing with your friends, and I will see you next time. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.